the Transportation Advisory Committee meeting for January 17th, 2023. Can we get a roll call?
Yes. Mr. Freeze.
Present.
Mr. Jessic.
Present.
Mrs. Donovan.
Present.
Mr. McEnroth.
Here.
Mr. Simmons.
Present.
And Mr. Morgan.
Present.
That's everyone.
All righty. We would like to move to the approval of the minutes, which we actually have two of. Did we confirm with John that the amendments he wanted to make to November were completed? Okay. So is there any additional changes or concerns about the minutes from November? If not, do I have a motion from somebody to approve?
I will make a motion to approve the minutes of November 2022.
And do we have a second?
Second.
All right, all those in,
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Sorry, I was just gonna, sorry. I jumped ahead. The December is not fully out there, just so you know.
yeah, I was gonna get there. So a motion to approve the minutes from November. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those
Aye.
opposed?
I gotta abstain because I wasn't there.
Motion carries. And that was gonna bring me on to my next one, is I didn't see an attachment for December, so
Yes.
we could just move that to next month's meeting and approve them at that point.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay. Adoption of the agenda. Does anybody have any changes or new items that they want to bring to the forefront that were not listed in the agenda?
You have my, did you put it, I see the meeting?
It is in our,
of the predicate?
yeah, so it is
I thought I saw it there, but I wasn't sure.
the neighborhood meetings, number 4 under new business.
Okay, so yours is in there. Anybody else with changes, modifications? All right, we'll move on to public comments if we've got any.
None.
We do not. All right, so we are straight into new business discussion items, and we already took care of number 3.
Yes, we did.
So we can move on to number 4, Transportation Advisory Committee meeting, neighborhood meetings.
So it's a one-pager of to develop the talking points and how all of you want to manage the neighborhood meetings as they come up. As Tim can share, he has one scheduled.
Yeah, so what it basically, we had the last meeting was to talk about meeting the community, meeting with the neighborhood associations and to express what's going on in our department and find out from the community what they need from the city. So I started my first call, which was the Park Place Neighborhood Association. They meet in February for actually in-person meeting. And so.
Your mic is not.
We can't hear you.
Okay, I'll swallow it. So they're having an in-person meeting in February, so I wanted to have a format, instead of me just going off what I know, to convey the city's message, to meet with them. And they were quite interested. It actually was another call about something else. And our former friend, or still current friend of the community, was what had steered me on to it, Bob LaSalle, gave me the contact person. So what I want to find out is any handouts or stuff that we want to present to the neighborhoods that's blessed by the city, and anything you want us to look at. So this will be the first kind of like test run to see what we can do, and then we can kind of go down the list of the other cities and get scheduled with them to meet throughout the year. And then we should have a lot more agenda items.
Right. Audrey and I met today and discussed this topic, and thank you. And we just kind of brainstormed a little bit. Certainly totally up for discussion. In fact, Audrey and I encourage you board members to be thinking about things that you'd like to present, but just some of the ideas that Audrey and I had, and they are things that we can produce mostly as handouts if you want, or something you could put on a PowerPoint if you want to do something like that. First and foremost, the TAC meeting schedule, that's an easy one. Link to the fact sheet, which is something we discussed in a previous meeting. That's needs to be updated as we talked about. That will happen. That's in progress. But that fact sheet is something that you could take to your neighborhood committee and talk about. Another biggie is the 2023 goals that we've talked about in recent meetings. Again, that's another handout that's not too busy, pretty legible. You can go through each of the goals. I think we're all familiar enough with them to be able to talk about the gist of each goal if people have questions. The 2022 annual report, that's also something that we can produce for you and disseminate. And then the last thing we thought about was the TAC campaign, which we're going to talk about a little bit more later on. But telling neighborhood associations, the Transportation Advisory Committee has a campaign. This year, it's going to be distracted driving. Here's some of the things we're doing throughout the year to raise awareness about distracted driving. So again, those are just some of the things we brainstormed. Again, we'd look to the board members if they have any ideas, thoughts, things that would be appropriate for one of you folks. In this case, it's going to be Tim first up to bat. And thank you, Tim, very much sincerely for taking the initiative and
No problem.
and taking this first one on.
Henry?
You mentioned the budget items. I think adding a discussion of dedicated funds and how they can be spent would be helpful.
Okay, it's a good idea because that's something that is very foreign to most people unless you work in a city environment. I do hear comments from folks, the city's got all this money, but they don't know most of that money, it's targeted. And it can't be spent on, anything else but what
And
it's
also
targeted for.
the source of them, because I'm relatively certain you're not getting any property tax monies in the budget.
Say that again, Henry?
I'm pretty sure you're not getting any, your income is not getting any property tax.
I think it would be, wouldn't it, to the general
No.
fund?
That goes to the general fund.
Yeah, general fund. So you're talking about like my transportation division?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's solely gas tax.
and likewise,
Yep.
the sewer and water and,
Vehicle registration fees also
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true.
coming into that fund.
Yep.
yeah, that whole envelope of how funding works and how spending works is bound to come up.
You bet.
Does
Good
the,
point. Thank you, Henry.
fact sheet talk about the speed bump program, and does it lead into those? Because I know those are going to be questions we'll get.
Sure.
maybe
I'll need to look,
preemptively.
I'll need to look, Ben. I must admit, I am not familiar with the fact sheet.
It's in there, but it needs to be updated.
Okay,
yeah.
so maybe let's take a look at updating all those, and then we can have them as flyers for
Right.
whoever's going to attend these meetings, so we've got a little packet to bring with us.
The stop sign one then too, if we're looking at doing the speed bump, like the stop sign, like what all those accrue to.
And, I'm thinking that for a neighborhood meeting, because most neighborhood meetings, and I don't know, Tim, if they've given you an idea of how long you have. Typically, it's 10, 15 minutes.
It's like a fast.
Right, so I think for speed humps, for the stop sign criteria, those could be good things that if they're mentioned, you could talk about. And then I would recommend on those potentially pointing people towards the website where we have the information. Because again, 10, 15 minutes for a presentation to a neighborhood meeting goes pretty quick. And all the stuff we listed out, you'd have to just really do a 50,000-foot level over everything. So it may be, once we get more ideas, Henry, your idea is a good one, maybe we whittle that down into a more manageable package.
Yeah, and the other thought was to be able to email, a summary to the president, whoever's holding it, so they have the information in advance, and then they can kind of go through it and say, well, some of the items we want to talk about are whatever, so then we can always steer to what it's concern of them. The other thing I wanted to include in there was the Oregon City My OC app. Now, I personally have used it, and it works. And you did fix some potholes. So obviously, it's a system that you can get, and I don't think a lot of people know about it, because who do you call?
Right,
You know?
right.
So I think that's another one to streamline communication, with the various city departments. Instead of you getting a bunch of phone calls from people trying to figure out how to get a hole filled.
So maybe if we did a quick fact sheet that's really,
Yeah.
a synopsis of what we wanted to talk about, and we don't lose them in the minutia there, and maybe put a QR code that's a link or something right to the tax website or something that, if they want to investigate in
Right.
more details, they can go down that rabbit hole as far as they want to go.
Excellent, good points.
Yeah.
And QR code, fancy.
Yeah.
Nice.
Got to keep up with the
We're
young
doing
kids.
more of
Got
that.
to keep up with the young kids. Anybody else questions or suggestions?
So,
Do we have a list of all the homeowners association neighborhoods?
I'm sure we do.
Oh, yeah.
I will look that up and
And maybe
disseminate
their
that
meeting
to.
times or,
If they don't, just
Yeah,
have
if
the
they have a
contact person,
standardized-
they'll be happy to make a contact with them and find out.
I think the OC maps may have that.
well, and if Tim gets really good at this, we can just make him our representative to every one of them. So just have him on a tour. So.
I second that.
You second that motion?
All in favor? Tim, I have a question for you. How did they, accept you there? Sometimes they're leery of the city coming in, sometimes they're,
Probably my sales background. No, I talked to Bob LaSalle, and I said, by the way, because I know they always have, he's part of my neighborhood group association for the neighborhood, and I've attended some of their meetings, and they've changed those meetings at the little community center down there at the public housing units. And so I was trying to find out about where meeting facilities were available for homeowner associations to actually go to, because it's very difficult to find public meeting space, because we're required as an HOA to meet in the public. Zoom's kind of filling in, but after a while, Zoom doesn't do it all, because you really need to have the physical contact. So I asked them if they give me the information on who is a good person to contact there, which saves me like tens of hours. And I emailed him, and about 4 days later, he emailed me back and then called me. So, and I told him my two objects I was looking at, and the other one was about getting on the meeting. Because I knew in February, they have their annual meeting. So, so I figured that'd be a start with the one that's closest to where I live, and just kind of work, through the city. And then we'll use them as the test, the trial balloon, and figure out what we need to add or whatever. But like in my own HOA, I tell people about if you see issues, there's lighting problems, traffic areas that are bad, let me know, to get things set up. So I'll give you an idea, like a few years, was it a year ago, I mentioned about when we had the 14th of February storm, and we had all the problems on Holcomb Boulevard with all the trees that were in line with all the power lines and stuff. We lost no power during this last winter. The other time, we lost power for 5 days, and we didn't have internet for 14. So that tree trimming project, pretty much anybody in the communities along that hill were affected. I don't know, some of them maybe had a little bit of an outage for a few minutes, but not like it was before. So those are things that we need to let these other HOAs, if they have frequent power outages, what's causing it? Because my neighborhood's all underground, but it all comes above ground to get to it. And the trees are just a mess, but they did a great trimming project there last year, like they did throughout the 205. If you remember the 205, it looked like a forest out there.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
Good.
Alrighty, so we'll fine tune those documents. We'll use a test subject at the Park Place neighborhood, and then we'll maybe expand it from
do
there.
you know how many we have in the city? How many planning?
Well,
Neighborhood associations?
Yeah.
I don't.
I think it's,
Is
is
it
it 12, I think?
Sounds right. I think
Roughly.
John might have mentioned that.
Roughly, I think, yeah. All right,
And Tim, one last thing, February 27th is the date of the meeting, correct?
I think so, is that whatever I
That
emailed
is
to
right.
you?
And Audrey had mentioned something about, and this goes back to emailing a summary to the neighborhood association president. They have a newsletter that goes out prior.
Right.
Is that like 1 week prior?
I
Do you know?
think it's a week prior or 2
Okay.
weeks. I think it might be two. I know they send the postcard out about 2 weeks before. Do you recall what it is? I think it's.
I get them, but I don't know how far, I haven't paid attention to how far in advance they are.
Yeah.
We'll get to work on compiling some information,
Yeah.
and then we'll need to be a little careful if, how much we discuss about this prior to our next meeting. There's meeting rules about, we can push out information, but it's not necessarily for debate or things like that, right? So what I'm getting at is Audrey and I will get to work on the talking points, and we'll have a variety. We'll have the documentation supporting each of the talking points, and then, at some point, maybe Tim, If you hear back from the neighborhood association, that'd be great if they want to dial it
Squeeze
down.
it down, yeah.
You know, we may ask you to use your best judgment to sort of pick out a few key topics, given the amount of time you'll have. Because I think we're gonna have way more topics than you'll have time to present.
Oh, yeah, that's fine. Don't you guys have, this annual, the meeting where the, like,
All the neighborhood associations get together.
yeah, but I was thinking about the community thing, like America's Night Out or whatever.
National Night Out?
National Night Out.
Yep, that's August, first Tuesday.
So, does your department have a special thing? I missed the one because I was traveling when you guys.
Yeah, so it's, National Night Out is mainly a police department function, but Public Works has a presence. I can get my hands on a big covered trailer filled with bicycles, so we do a bicycle rodeo. And then we typically have a city booth that if we have any projects, you know, big CIP projects going on, we can have information. This year, I think we're gonna have a booth from Oregon Impact there. But at National Night Out, that is mainly a police department function. However, we can certainly
So that's-
expand our city booth.
Yeah, so that's another thing too, that the police department, we can find out when they're doing their, bike safety and those kind of things, events that they have. And maybe have those dates published, so that people are aware of it. You know, I know like in Tualatin Valley Fire and Rescue, they used to have a lot about bring your car with your child seat in there to make sure it's properly installed. That was an interesting event.
Henry?
And Vance, don't you normally ask for volunteers to help you with that?
Yes.
Oh, I should start asking now in January, is what you're saying?
Well,
It's on your calendar.
It's easy
Your
to
calendar
plan.
is booked right here.
Alrighty, the next one up is gonna be Vance again for our program coming up. The campaign.
Campaign, yes, so actually, I'm gonna let Audrey sort of take this. She's been doing the legwork, and working with Oregon Impact in particular. You know, I think we heard that distracted driving was something that not only staff, but the TAC board members felt strongly about. So, Oregon Impact has quite a bit of information. We have a bunch of examples here of just different things that they can supply with, under a bunch of different, scenarios. But, yeah, I think it behooves us to kind of join up with Oregon Impact this year, keeping distracted driving as the topic for awareness for the season. But go ahead if you've got anything else you'd like to add.
I think John also had in mind that we'd be pushing that out for the National Night Out. So the encouragement would be that some of you would join in on that event. We could also push out the signage, or maybe afterwards you could look around, but they have like bracelets and fun objects that we can put out on a table to support the message of,
So I have a question in terms of messaging. You know, we had that campaign, the one on the garbage
Garbage
cans.
cans, which was a great idea.
And you see them all the time out there. Is it something that we could try that again, or work with the, you know,
From a
ways?
visibility standpoint, I think that was a pretty good success and stuck around.
And I would like to, again, I'd like to see them on the public works vehicles.
We have some space on some of them, for sure. But currently, we have, you know, Oregon City is hiring, so that's what we have on there now.
So, and these signs are for like, we're talking about like people would call and get like a yard sign.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. There's yard signs, there's frisbees, there's coasters, there's pens, there's some different pamphlets there. But, you know, frankly, from our perspective, we're trying to find stuff that we can get for, you know, little or no cost. I don't know, has Oregon Impact given you any costs for
they
anything?
haven't given me any costs. They're still developing their 2023 items, but like you're saying, for the stickers, for the garbage, we can put out ideas and then get the pricing for it and figure out.
Do they have a sponsor? I mean, are they able, like sponsored by somebody?
You know, I'm not sure.
I mean, like.
I'm assuming they're a nonprofit. but I don't know.
You don't have to
that.
pay for the sticker provided by, we're in support of, most likely an insurance company would probably be geared onto that.
Yeah, I'm not sure, Tim, how they're sponsored or funded. I would imagine there's going to be a cost associated if
you
we
ever
decide we'd like one particular yard sign or a few and however many. Typically they're not making a huge profit. They're covering their costs on those, from what I understand.
And is their campaign gonna parallel what we're doing, or do we tell them what campaign we want and they help out with it, or?
It seems like instead of TAC doing their own campaign and making up our own signage, things like that, we can partner with Oregon Impact that's done
Okay.
most of that work.
And is distracted driving the campaign for this year? Okay, so we're on that campaign, we're gonna go to them for swag, if you will, take it to the national night out, maybe some of us could, distribute some of it as well.
Yeah.
Is that kind of the idea?
And they do have, I think, a couple different sort of crash trailers that they can bring out to events that have vehicles, excuse me, that have been involved in accidents, whether it be marijuana, alcohol, or distracted driving. And specifically, they do have a distracted driving one that they can bring out for National Night Out.
Or what about having something in a news magazine, Oregon News or whatever? Trail,
On the trail news,
trail news,
yeah, we can certainly add something like that. That's
and on the website.
yeah, yep.
Do we, since it's a 2023 campaign, National Night Out, it's not till August, right? So that's like, we got like 8 months out. Do we need to come with a plan to run in parallel building up to that? Because I just feel like we're sitting in dead space if we wait till August to have our booth to put out signs and do those things, so.
Yeah, I don't think we need to wait till August. I mean, August is going to be the big show,
Okay.
right? But I think prior to that, as a group, you can decide on, specific yard signs or other swag that they have. We can make a determination on, do we want to purchase some? How much will that be? And I don't see any reason why we can't do that. We can have that conversation next month if you'd like. Because I do agree, August is a long way away. I don't see a reason why we can't do something. As Cheddar mentioned, trail news articles, we'll be happy to put something together for that.
Figure it's gonna start getting that, well,
Same with the website.
hopefully get nice soon, but that's when, we're gonna start seeing more distracted driving, more kids on the crossing streets, people
Right.
walking their pets, bike riders, all those sorts, right? They start coming out as the weather gets nicer, so it'd be nice to try to get ahead of the campaign. Plus, I think it sends a message to more people in the community that have that, people feel like they're being watched.
Agreed.
Do we know what the date is? Is it the first Tuesday
It's
of
the first
August?
Tuesday.
Yeah, so that would be the 8th. No, that'll be the 1st. August 1st then.
Is National Night Out?
I just want to make sure, so I have to write it in there.
On the trail news, can we get a cover photo for that?
Of your picture, Henry, or the whole package?
Of the crashed car or the distracted driving bit?
Yeah, it could be. I mean, I don't have a yes or no answer for you, but it's something I'd absolutely be happy to
Because
check into.
I keep seeing the news, but I keep seeing that nice, pretty, serene scene, and I think maybe the shock value of seeing the car against the stop sign or power pole or something might encourage people to read, why.
Yeah, I know they used to bring it to the high schools too. I don't know if they still do that, but they said like once a year they would do that.
Yeah, I think we definitely need to, if it's campaign for a year, we should get going on it versus wait
That's gonna be here quicker than we think, so.
August.
So do you need any additional direction from us today, or just continue moving forward with
I don't
investigation?
think we need any additional direction. I mean, it seems pretty clear.
Perfect.
Yeah.
All right. Moving on. On to the Public Works report.
Okay. So the two things on the Public Works report, the Holcomb Safe Routes to Schools and then the tolling status update, these are really Dana Webb items. So in your packets, you've got a lot of information on both. What I can tell you in regards to the Holcomb Boulevard Safe Routes to School grant, on January 12th, that was part of the consent agenda for the Oregon Transportation Commission, and it passed.
Perfect.
So it's moving forward. The city's match of $410,695 is funded, so this project will move forward. There is a map shot, a couple pages in, that shows Holcomb Boulevard. And you can see in orange, those are the areas that will be taken care of with this grant. The areas marked in green are future project or by developer. Dana did tell me the area marked in green, sort of to the east of Holcomb Elementary School, that is looking really good as part of the Sears development, Sears Farm development. The other areas down towards Holcomb, more towards Redland, there's no timing on those. Again, it's going to be with future development, and there is no timing on that. So
The upper piece for the Sears development, is that going to piggyback pretty quick into our program of what we're doing in the orange?
I'm not sure of the timing.
Okay,
I think the message there, the good news is it looks like it's going to
pretty
go through.
similar. Okay.
Well, isn't that subdivision construction?
Yes, yeah, they're moving dirt over there.
So they'll probably beat this grant potentially if I had to,
Okay.
that's just a guess on my part.
Okay.
But any other questions, Dana told me to just let you folks know, please feel free to reach out to her directly, or you can reach out to me. I can get with Dana if you have more pointed questions on it.
I do have a question.
Yeah,
As we're looking at North End development and all that stuff down, there's missing sidewalks all the way down, along that market store and down through the curve to Redland Road. Is that ever going to be worked on?
if it gets on the radar, it probably would not be as part of the Safe Routes to School,
No, just
but
an overall.
yeah. I don't know, Jedemir. I don't know if that's been discussed. I don't know if it has been discussed, where that could be falling into a priority, but I'm happy to check into it.
So the green marks going, like Swan Way down, those are, what's the representing of that?
Those are areas of sidewalk that would be put in by future development.
Okay. And then, and so the orange part is where the Grand is up by the Holcomb Elementary. It's going to hook up to Sears.
Yep.
And then on the other side of it, the hookup on Winston. Because that's about where it ends, is right at Winston there.
That is correct.
Okay.
Well, there's that from the Swan down, I don't know how much future development. It's a big church and then single-family residences along the road. Well, that's never going to happen.
I don't have an answer for you, Jedemir.
A question on the map, the Icon properties around the school on that side, it's not marked in any color on that hillside,
On the inside of the turn?
on the inside of the turn. Is that going to be a problem?
And as I mentioned earlier, you're going to have to reach out to Dana. I'm not involved with this project at this point. She just gave us the information, and I wish I had better answers for you, Henry,
I
but
can
it's
see-
not.
I can
not my fault.
questions.
I can see Tim fielding that at Park Place.
I know, and that's a hot issue down there.
Hopefully Dana will be here at our next meeting, you can fire away on that.
I can tell you all about what we're doing in operations.
Okay.
All right, so on to your next topic then, since
Okay.
Dana's gone.
Yes.
I have more questions on that too.
Same story, Henry. Again, Dana put together this information on the I-205 tolling. There's a lot of good information here. The big takeaway that I want you all to know and hear today is tomorrow at the city commission meeting, ODOT is giving a presentation on tolling. So if you have time at all, or if you can watch the recording afterwards, highly recommend that you do that. And again, lots of good information in here. Towards the back, you will see the RMPP, the Regional Mobility Pricing Project, scoping letter. It's pretty long and detailed. Again, some good information there, and it gives a good sense of the city's perspective from our electeds. You know, this was signed by our mayor, Denise McGriff. If you haven't read it, I encourage you to. And this was submitted in early January. There was a cutoff date of January 6th. This was mailed on the 4th. So ODOT has this, and I'm glad that the city was able to produce this and get it to them. And that's all I have.
Alrighty. Well, that is all our communications, so unless there's any additional comments or,
I do have one more thing that didn't make the agenda. In my meeting today with Audrey, and Bruce, you mentioned this, the ride-along program. So you had reached out to the PD, is that right? Mm-hmm. So the PD is not doing ride-alongs anymore.
okay?
Did they give you reasons?
They said due to COVID and low staffing, they don't have the ability to do them, and they're only doing it for new hires, people coming onboarding.
Fill out an application.
I was just gonna say, Bruce, you got it.
Well, it's funny you mention that because, Bruce Freeze, if you're interested, you could be part of the Citizen Police Academy.
I already did it once, that's what I was saying, Chris was my instructor.
There you
Good
go.
man.
I graduated too.
So in all seriousness, this
Straight
is an
A's.
alternative. The Citizen Police Academy. This is something, instead of handing it around, I'll have Audrey just email it to you folks, so you have this. Some good information on the basics of what the academy does. It's a commitment, 7 consecutive Tuesday evenings from January 31st to March 14th. So missed the boat on this year potentially, but it is another option out there if somebody is so inclined to get involved and learn more about the police department. Okay?
Well, I think we've got a liaison of
Yes.
sorts that applied today, so
got a direct
we might be able to be tasking some of it a certain direction.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Now that is all I have.
All right. Anybody else, anything they want to add? Otherwise,
See, do we get an update on the ODOT's 213 speed yet?
No, not yet.
that one's still in waiting. Probably will be for a while, would be my guess.
Yeah.
They've had a year and a half.
Yep.
Right on schedule.
Let's see, I can give you 6 accidents, including one that I left this meeting and happened at the same spot out there. They gotta do something about that. I think what they really need to do is be there at 6 o'clock at night when it's raining and make a left-hand turn on Redlands Road and watch the traffic coming at you at 65 miles an hour with no barrier. Until they get the point.
If ODOT has reached out to Dana or John, I've not heard about it.
Okay.
But I would have thought Dana would have mentioned it to me.
He knows you're waiting for it. All right, without further ado, meeting is adjourned.
Great. Thank you.